All right, let's now move on and hear from the Chair of the Schools Rugby Foundation. Please give a warm welcome to David Mortimer.
Thank you very much, Michael, and thank you for the kind words you've said about schoolboy rugby and Graham. What a wonderful man, what a wonderful tribute to hear from him. And it's sad to see these guys passing at what I think is a very young age. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to particularly welcome Phil Waugh, CEO of Rugby Australia, and I think during Phil's leadership, he's shown how he can reshape the game for the good of rugby generally, and I think it's fair to say that he's had great success. One of the things I admire about the way he's approached it is he's been able to surround himself with high-quality people, and if you've got high-quality people supporting you, there's a good chance you'll get high-quality results. And Phil, you're on the right way, in my opinion, so thank you for your support for Rugby Australia and your leadership, and I look forward to seeing much further success, continued success. Phil, of course, was a schoolboy, an Australian schoolboy, not once but twice, and he captained the second time, and in 1996 led an undefeated team, including beating New Zealand. At that time, according to my records, was coached by a fellow called Joe Smith. So I think you're very proud of that one too, mate. Also, of course, Rugby Union Australia's President Joe Ralph was also an Australian schoolboy, as you know. I want to welcome Ricky Stuart and all of the 1985 schoolboys. Today we're celebrating the 40th anniversary of that undefeated run that they all had. And I'm told, although I didn't see it, Ricky, that you won a very important match last night and that you got to show a couple of million viewers, or however many it was, your dancing skills, which apparently reflected the excitement and the win that you conveyed to your supporters. So well done. I'd also like to thank you, Michael, for emceeing today. I know you're a keen rugby man, doing a wonderful job with Stan Sport, and stepping in to replace Tracy Holmes at late minute, and I think you did it with great skill, so it's great to have you aboard. Thank you very much. If I could also acknowledge and thank a number of people who've contributed to the schoolboys and the foundation, particularly Brother Bob Wallace. Now, Bob's been around rugby for many, many years, but you couldn't ask for a more dedicated and committed individual. Bob continues to support rugby in every single way he can and every single ounce of his day. Chuck Ahern, who's a wonderful member of our committee, Steve O'Donnell, Anthony Edgar and Philip Tuck, all of whom are great contributors to schoolboy rugby, so I want to thank them. I was reminded this morning of schools rugby when a colleague of mine sent me a note of an article which was in a South African paper written by a journalist called Craig Ray, who I don't know. The article was headed, "Springbok Rugby has nothing to fear for years, thanks to its growing production line." The article then proceeded to cover the South Australian schools rugby progress, the depth that's in those schools, and the serious approach that the schools are taking to developing rugby as a sport in their country. It's extraordinary. They're focusing on coaching. The schools have psychologists, they've got nutritionists, they've got physios, they've got biokineticists, whatever that is. It's really a great challenge for Australian rugby. And I know Rugby Australia is very keen to continue to see our program support that sort of direction. But it's important that we recognise that our opponents are spending big money in developing this sport. The purpose of the foundation, as Michael mentioned, is to raise funds to support activities with the Australian Schools Rugby Union. The Australian Schools Rugby Union runs the Australian Championships each year. This year we'll run it for the 51st year. It selects the best Australian schoolboys and now the Australian Schoolgirls Sevens teams. We also help the Australian Schoolboys and the Australian Schoolgirls Sevens teams continue the long tradition of touring. The ASRU currently does not receive external funding. The financial support comes from the parents and teams raising their own funds, supported by the volunteer work of the ASRU, teachers and previous players. The largest financial supporters over the last 4 years has been the 1977 Schoolboys and the 1984 Wallabies. So that's much appreciated. All of the money, as Michael mentioned, goes to the players. There's no cost in administration. The Australian Schoolboys have produced 210 Wallabies and over 142 Australian Sevens players. Our Australian Schoolboys team have had a winning percentage of 73% over 50 years. And it's not only that, they're continuing. Over the last few years, in 2015 for example, 72% of the Super Rugby teams in Australia came through the Australian Schools pathway, representing their state, the Australian Championships and the Australian Schoolboys team. Now, it's been with enormous success that we've introduced the Girls Sevens. Only in its third year, the Australian Schoolgirls Sevens have already produced 14 players who have gone on to Super 14, Super Wynnum I should say, Australia Under 18, Sevens, Australian Sevens or Wallaroo representation. That in 2 years only. Girls rugby at the school level, with the additional attraction of Olympic representation, is attracting the very best young female athletes. We need your help. We acknowledge you being here today. We acknowledge those who have constantly put their hands in their pocket, but we need a sponsor or sponsors. And if any of you have contacts which you think will help us in terms of sponsorship, please contact Anthony Edgar or Stephen O'Donnell, both of whom are here today, and we will facilitate the rest of the work. If Anthony and Stephen could just put your hand up so we know where you are. Stephen's at the end of the room. Anthony is over the other side. So if you could do that, it'd be wonderful. We need all the help we can get financially. We've got great support from Rugby Australia, but we also need support from our stakeholders. So thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the afternoon. Cheers. Thanks, Michael.
Thank you, David. And on the topic of the Australian schoolgirls, we have one of the stars from the last couple of years here in our presence today, Manua Maleka, who was the vice captain the last couple of years, and she's just shuddered at being called out in this room of many people. Also a star for the Brumbies in Super Rugby Women's at the moment as well. Next.